Hi there, David Ostriker from Carmiel in the Galil in Israel. Parsha Bo from this beautiful town. It's cold outside in Toronto. Here, it's a bit rainy and it dropped to 11 degrees. Okay, we're wearing sweaters now. That's winter in Carmiel. I want to talk about the Parsha this week because it had a stunning import for us day to day. Parsha Bo, the Parsha of the Exodus. Right? Let's look at the world in which we are now. The redemption must be close at hand. Why do I say this? Maimonides, the great RAMBAM, has a relatively clear and simple definition of what Messianic Times are. It's not mystical. It's not meditative. It's not even miraculous. He says in his Laws of Kings, and I'll just quote for you, "One is not to presume that anything of the ways of the world will be set aside in the Messianic era, or that there will be any innovation in the order of creation. Rather, the world will continue according to its norms." Straightforward. What will the difference be? And now he deals with some of the prophetic, more mystical statements. And listen to what he says. "As for that which Isaiah said, that the wolf will dwell with the sheep and the leopard will lie down with the kid, this is an analogy and a metaphor. It means that Israel will dwell securely alongside its neighbors, who are likened to wolves and leopards. As it is said, a wolf from the plains, as it is said, a wolf from the plains ravages, a leopard lies in wait over the cities. In the Messianic era, all will return to the true religion and will neither steal nor destroy, but consume that which is permitted in repose alongside Israel. As it said, the lion will eat straw like the ox." All other such expressions are also allegories, and in an era of the Messianic King, everyone will come to know what the allegory is about and what allusions are indicated. We will come to understand the allegories to be allegories. Chazal, our sages, say there is no difference, says Rambam, between the present age and the Messianic era, but delivery from subjugation to foreign powers. Now, Rambam is writing this in the midst of a 2,000-year exile after the destructions of the temples. And he tells us clearly what is the Messianic time. The Messianic time is when Israel will dwell at peace with its neighbors, securely at peace with its neighbors. And the neighbors who have been carnivores up to this point will not be so anxious to kill to survive. They will eat straw like the ox does. Ox is a strong animal, but it doesn't kill for its food. And he explains not only are these allegories, which we don't understand in his time as allegories, but in Messianic times we will understand them to be allegorical. Now let's jump ahead for a second. Israel has been at war virtually since its creation, 70 years, especially with its neighbors, but in different ways with many parts of the world. 70 years. And what happens to a nation that's war at 70 years? It becomes the premier nation, the startup nation, the nation that's created levels of high tech that have been unimaginable. Agriculture, medicine, economics. It's stunning what is going on while Israel has been at war with virtually all its neighbors. Imagine for a moment, and this is what Rambam understood, if Israel were not only not at war, but at real peace with its neighbors, then that ability that Israel has when it's at war, imagine if it was driven towards the welfare of the world. Could end hunger, could end disease. The potential is virtually unimaginable looking at what's been accomplished thus far during the 70 years of war. Now let's look at Israel's neighbors. Moab, Jordan, on one side, has an average annual income of under $4,000, $3,000. Egypt, on the other side, annual income less than $5,000. We really have no idea, where Syria or Lebanon, Iraq stand in all this. How about Israel? Israel's annual income went up $6,000 to just under $45,000 without oil revenue. Today, Israel really is a superpower of the neighborhood. And as a consequence, its neighbors, when they find themselves threatened, which they do, by Shia ambitions coming out of Iran, Tehran, are looking for partners that will grant them security. And quietly, but in a very, very focused way, the Sunnis, Gulf states, Egypt, have turned to Jerusalem, to Israel. It's not simply about a war. They're talking about an alliance. The next stage will be to recognize how can we totalitarian Sunni nations, avoid being destroyed by our own people. Perhaps it is by looking at the example of little Israel. Not just looking at it, but choosing to partner with it. And when that moment comes, when the nations who have been at war with Israel realize it's not about peace, it is about true partnership, it's about appreciating the potential for my own nation by working with this country. And at that moment, the vision of RAMBAM becomes not just simply a prophecy, but a reality. And we have a better world to live in. How does it connect with Parsha Bo? Just leave you with this little thought. We have a phrase, Maseh Avos Siman Levanim. The way of the fathers is the root of the sons, of the children. We know that Abraham went down to Egypt and it presaged the Jews going down to Egypt. And he came out with great wealth as it presaged that the Jews would later, under Moshe, come out with great wealth. There are many, many examples of it. I don't want to run through them all. But what happens at the end of this Parsha? Pharaoh comes to Moshe and he says, leave, go. Take everything, go, just go. And then he says one last thing, which is very strange. He says, and bless me. Pharaoh asked Moshe to bless him. Pharaoh is Egypt. And Egypt is being bankrupted by this process of the plagues. And he turns to the source of his defeat and he says, bless me. Maybe that's what Egypt is doing today. Maybe that's what Egypt realizes. Egypt, the most populous nation. Egypt, the leader, both in war and in peace now, in its relations with Israel. Because Egypt, General Sisi, perhaps sees what the potential is of an alliance versus a cold peace. God willing, we're seeing the beginning of RAMBAM's very straightforward process. Right? The things are in place all over the world. I think we're going to see changes as we go forward. I look forward to speaking with you about this again. Good Shabbos. Thank you for joining me.